Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm super stoked to be sitting down and making this one for you. I get asked this question a ton of times, and as someone who has priced out hundreds and hundreds of projects in the last 3 years, I think that I finally have the knowledge and expertise to really shed some light on this subject for you. Now, what is that? That is how you price yourself as a content creator. Of course, the examples we're going to be using are as if a company comes to you and asks you for some photos as well as a video. Because remember, we are content creators, and I do see that most of the time when companies do come to me, their main focus is a video, and then they're looking for photos after the fact. I've broken this into essentially two methods that we can work with here. One, a beginner method, and one that's more of an intermediate sort of method. Once you've really methodically understood the beginner method, then you can move into the intermediate method, which is kind of like a piggyback on the first one. So with that said, we're going to dive right into the beginner method. Now, as a beginner, you've just picked up your camera and you're super excited. You've been working on your portfolio and a company reaches out to you asking you for some content, and you need to price that out. So the first tip I have for you is set an hourly wage. Now, the reason that I say set an hourly wage for your first few projects is because it's going to help you truly understand the amount of time it's going to take you to actually complete a project, as well as give you a full breakdown of exactly what the client's money is going towards. In fact, when I was actually just starting out, I was charging about $40 per hour, slowly making my way up to $80 plus per hour, and I was doing a complete breakdown that I was sending to the client so they can see exactly where their money was going towards. Now, I found with the smaller budget clients, whether your project is about $200 to $500 in that range, this is extremely beneficial. Everyone's looking for the best deal they can get, and this allows them to see exactly where their money is going. So there's really no questions when it comes to actually creating the project. Now, there are a few things to consider when first pricing your project. We're going to be including things like driving time, our shoot time, editing time, studio time, and potential model time. So these are all things that you need to think about and actually write down on your sheet. So we're going to grab a pen and paper. Well, you guys can. I'm just going to stick them up on the screen here. And we're going to go over this first example that I have for you guys. Now, if a company comes to you and asks for some photos and videos, a very standard package I would recommend pitching to them would be about 15 fully edited product photos and one 15 to 30 second video. When we're breaking this down, we're going to be setting it as an hourly wage of first $40 to start off with. Now, I understand this can be cheap, but as a beginner, you're going to be starting off around here and slowly building your way up as you gain knowledge and expertise. So let's price this out. Say we are driving, for me, I'm going to use my example. Say I need to drive to Toronto. So I'm just outside the city. That's about an hour drive in total. So we're going to be charging an hour's worth pay for that hour of driving. Now, keep in mind, as you get your price, as you raise your prices, you don't have to stick at the $40 per hour for driving, but just keep in mind that you are paying for gas. So $40 minimum for the 1 hour of driving, I think is very reasonable, but I have charged up to $60 to $70 for that hour, depending on how far I need to go. So next we've got roughly 2 hours of shooting. So for me, 15 photos and a video, roughly 2 hours of shooting is what I know that I will need. If you need 3 hours, then price out 3 hours. I really urge you to truly be completely honest with yourself as to how long you think this stuff's going to take. The reason for this is I have priced out multiple projects where in the end, I end up doing the entire project for about $10 to $15 per hour because you were not completely honest with the amount of time you thought it would actually take, and it ends up taking a lot longer. Therefore, you are making less money on the project because in the eyes of business, it is a little bit unprofessional to be going back to your client and saying, sorry, it's going to actually cost this much for the project as opposed to the original quote. Next, I've priced out about 6 hours for our editing time. Now, this is of course another point in time where you need to be completely honest with yourself. 6 hours for me is relatively standard, but I know that this kind of stuff can take someone upwards to 8 to 10 hours to complete. If that's what it takes, then make sure you write that down. Next, we're going to be looking at the two optional things. So first, we've got studio time. Now, 2 hours of studio time, I just budgeted this at about $250. I find that some studios, it really depends. Like you can get a nice studio for cheap, but if you want that like white backdrop, some studios have the actual photography backdrops and they make you pay extra for that paper. So keep that in mind when actually pricing out a studio. And also don't be shy to actually, mark it up a little bit. That is completely standard within the industry. Make an extra $20 off the studio or the model fee. That is completely normal. Now for the model, I've charged about $120. This of course depends on your model, how much they're going to charge for the day, but I priced about 2 hours, normally about $120 to $150. This is going to equal about 9 hours of work for you and come out to about $360 in your pocket. Now this is all right. It's not the best, but it is definitely a start. It's still $360 for your project. And of course, if they want a studio and a model, you're going to be looking at a total of $780 for this project. Keep in mind, guys, when sending this off to your client, it is mostly set in stone. This is your quote. This is what the client is expecting to pay. And the only reason that you're going to be changing this, whether it's going to be costing more in the end, is if the actual scope of the project changes. An example of that, say they want more photos, they want 25 photos instead of 15. Great, then you can add a markup for the extra photos and go from there. But I would not recommend just giving them a quote and then saying, sorry, this took me longer to edit than I thought. It's actually going to be this much on the final invoice. Honestly, some companies might not like that, and you want to make sure that you solidify your client relations. Very important. Very important. Now we're going to be moving on to the intermediate method. So this is where we're going to be kind of gravitating from, or moving away from actually charging per hour to charging a fixed sum. Now before we get into that, I just want to say really quickly, guys, hit that subscribe button if you're still watching, hit that like button. It really helps me out a ton, and I look forward to making more videos like this where I can just sit down and have a conversation with you guys about the business aspect of actually becoming a content creator. And I know how complicated it can be. I really didn't have a whole lot of guidance through the 3 years, and I've made tons of mistakes. So I am more than happy to make these videos to help you guys try and avoid some of the mistakes that I personally have made. And by mistakes, when I say that I have priced a project where I ended up making about 10 to 15 bucks an hour at the end of the project, I am completely serious with that. That has actually happened to me. It's not the best thing in the world, but it happened. As we gravitate towards the intermediate method, we're going to still be working as an hourly wage, but we're going to be doing that more on the back end and gearing our prices more towards a fixed sum than an actual hourly wage. So what do I mean by this? So say we have finally become proficient with pricing out our smaller projects, and we're looking to finally raise our prices to hit that goal of say $1,000 for a video and maybe $500 to $800 for photos. So even though this $780 can be relatively low for an entire project, including a studio, I just want to briefly touch on actual sort of industry pricing and give you guys some values to work up to and know what to expect in the end game. Personally, I have worked my way up to the point where I am charging a minimum $1,000 for a video. This is about 15 to 30 seconds. Now, this $1,000 does not include the price of a studio. All of that is extra. And I usually add on photos for about $500 to $800, depending on the client's specifics. But this pricing here is a little more standard when you're actually pricing out creating promo videos and content for brands for social media purposes or website purposes, whichever it may be. $1,000 is pretty much the sweet spot for where you want to be at pricing those out. Now, keep in mind for videos, if you're doing something like real estate, you might want to start with $350 for a walkthrough video, as those are a lot easier to do than a full-on promo video. There's a lot more cuts in a promo video and a lot more pre-planning that's going to be going into something of that scale. There's still a markup on that. Say you're doing a real estate video and they want the drone, you can add an extra $50 for drone flights, as you're paying for the drone as well as the licensing costs here in Canada. You need a full pilot license almost here in order to fly these drones, which of course I have, but I don't have one that allows me to fly in the city. So there's different tiers. It's kind of interesting how it works. Definitely a video for another time. With that said, we're going to be moving into the intermediate method, where we're actually going to be ditching the sort of hourly price, and we're going to be looking more to charge a fixed sum. So what do I mean by that? I still believe that is very valuable for you to start with an hourly wage and kind of work that out on the back end, whether that be $80 to $100, depends on where you feel your skill set is. But when you are actually submitting it to the client, you're not going to be submitting any of that back-end stuff. You are just going to say, okay, it's going to cost $2,000 to make this content. And you will notice that once you start getting to these price points, clients are much more likely to just say, yes, here's your deposit, as opposed to wanting to see the exact breakdown of everything their money is going towards, like the lower budget projects. So it's kind of interesting how that works, but that is definitely what I have found to be true within the industry. So with that said, the intermediate method was relatively simple. It's more of a piggyback on top of the beginner method, where you've actually methodically learned the process and now you can charge a full fixed sum because you know that you will be making your money back on that sum. Now, why would we charge a fixed sum over an hourly rate? The reason for this is, why would you want to penalize yourself when you're good? Say a beginner takes them 10 hours to do a project, and you've got someone who is more intermediate to advanced that will take them 6 hours to do the same amount of content. Should you be penalized for being able to complete a project faster than somebody else? And for me, I think the answer is no, which is why charging as an hourly rate can hurt you in the end once you start gaining the knowledge and skill set and become more proficient within software. That's where you should be charging more per hour and getting a higher paycheck for doing less work, essentially. So guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Really quickly, some of you know that I have my own sort of content media company. And I thought I would just give you guys some of our package pricing so you can get an idea of where you want to be compared to where you are right now. With just our photography packages, we have two. 15 photos is about $1,000, not including a studio, and our 30 photos is about $1,660, not including a studio. So this will probably come with, I can imagine they'd be about $1,200 for 15 photos, because you're looking at about 2 hours of studio time right there. And we also have our videos, which we advertise as social media ads, that start at $1,000. Now these can of course increase if they're looking for something that's more than 30 seconds, or if they need a certain amount of props, special studio, and so on. So this is just the price for us to come in and do the job, not the price for everything included with the studio and whatnot. Now we also have our creation packages. So we've broken these actually into two packages, a gold and a diamond, where we can offer both photos and videos in one package. Now to sweeten the deal, we also include the price of a professional studio rental inside these packages to kind of show the client that you are truly getting everything that you need within this one set price. And that is about $3,500 for 15 photos and 2 Instagram promotional ads that are under 30 seconds. Now our last package is our diamond package, and that is about $5,900, so our most expensive package that we have, and this one includes 30 professional photos as well as 4 videos under 30 seconds. So as you can imagine, that right there is about 2 months of content for a company when they're posting every other day. They could also stretch that a little bit more, and this also includes the studio as well as the story campaigns. Well guys, that is pretty much it for this video. If you are still here, that is awesome. Thank you so much for watching this video right through. Hit that subscribe button. I look forward to making some more content. And yeah, hit that like button as well. I think it's like 95% of you guys aren't subscribed, so like, you know, we can get to 300 real quick if you guys subscribed. Just saying. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one.